Hello, Africa. Welcome to AAU Talks on AAU TV. AAU TV is the voice of higher education in Africa. I'm coming to you live from the headquarters of the Association of African Universities here in Accra, Ghana. My name is Adjoa Omie, and I'm going to be your sitting host for today. Our topic for discussion today is facilitating doctoral education and knowledge production in Africa. You know, a PhD is a doctoral research degree and normally the highest level of academic qualification you can achieve. The degree normally takes between 3 and 4 years of full-time work towards a thesis offering an original contribution to your subjects. The beginning of a PhD is all about finding your feet as a researcher and getting a solid grounding in the current scholarship that relates to your topic. My guest will be joining me via Zoom. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. If you just joined in, we are watching the AAU. Welcome back. If you just tuned in, you are watching AAU Talks on AAU TV. My name is Adjoa Omie, and today we will be discussing facilitating doctoral education and knowledge production in Africa. Joining me via Zoom is Titilope Ajayi, who is a Nigerian, a founder and co-director, and is also a multi-skilled professional with thematic interest in gender and security and technical expertise in knowledge management and capacity development. She's currently completing her PhD in international affairs at the University of Ghana. Also joining me is Dr. Ziba Nwako, who is also a Nigerian and a co-coordinator, a researcher and consultant, and also a visiting lecturer at the University of Bristol. She researches the personal welfare and well-being of female students in Africa and gender justice using a post-colonial feminist lens. Welcome to AAU Talks. Let me start with you, Dr. Titi. Can you tell us what the DAPIA is about?
Okay, thank you for the question. So doing a PhD in Africa is a hub and a network and a safe space for early career doctoral scholars in Africa. And that's just jargon for people who are at the beginning stages of their academic journeys. And it was started in 2017 when I was a first year student at the University of Ghana. And I was looking for a space in which I could network with other students who were in my position, not just in my department, but across my university and outside of that space as well. And I basically couldn't find anything, certainly nothing that had a heavy African representation. So this is where the idea for a PhD in Africa came from. And we have 5 main aims and objectives. The first one is to promote access to quality knowledge and education. And that has 2 parts. One is to let people know what opportunities are out there in terms of if you are looking to do a PhD, whether in Africa or outside. And the other is to promote access to knowledge, particularly by the demographic that we're targeting, which is early career doctoral scholars. We also are looking to promote networking and collaboration, and we'll talk in a few minutes about the specific ways in which we do that. Personal and career development is the 3rd major objective. The 4th, from next year, we're looking to offer substantive support in the form of small grants to our demographic, our community. And the 5th is advocacy. We see ourselves as a movement for change. We work with a number of guiding principles related to what I just said. The first has to do with the centering of Africa and African experiences of life and doctoral studies. And we're living this by, running this organization, this community. But as much as possible, the opportunities that we share, the kinds of conversations we have, Africa is always at the center of it, even though we do look broadly. The second guiding principle is about giving back and paying forward. Well, this has to do with the fact that there are lots of prestigious scholarships and opportunities out there, but not everybody has access to them because they're limited. So one of our values that we work with and that we try to inculcate in our members is if you have access to good opportunities and good knowledge, then you have a responsibility to make sure that other people benefit from the knowledge and the experiences that you have had. And the last point is about diversity. So we promote diversity both within and outside in gender, in terms of identity, in terms of location. The current structure of our organization, we are currently staffed by a group of volunteers, and that goes for everybody from the board down to the interns that we work with. So we have a number of communications and social media interns. We work with a number of coordinators who are all African but located in different parts of the continent and outside. Ziba and I are co-directors, and we have a board of early career doctoral scholars, but we work closely with a number of senior scholars as well. And we are very active digitally. We have a website, which you should be able to see the website address. We also have accounts on Facebook, on Twitter, and on LinkedIn, and we'll be very happy to interact with anybody who wants to engage with us there. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Ziba, kindly tell us how the experience has been so far.
The experience of doing a PhD in Africa. So I will talk specifically about, I'd say, the challenges that we faced. So, and being a gender scholar, I'll start with that aspect of it. So for female PhD students, there is, first of all, the access to studying for a PhD because of gender discrimination and stereotyping, due to some students being mothers maybe and having family responsibilities. Also career constraints and progression of studies, particularly for women students. There's a serious issue we face to do with gender inequality and power dynamics between male and female, say, members of staff in higher education as well as students. Managing the PhD process is also a huge challenge because sometimes there's no support, and we're trying to find out if we can, as Titi would say earlier, try to manage this between ourselves, between the students, and then especially giving extra support to female students. The serious issues again of the hazards of sexual harassment and sexual abuse. This is found in most sectors, I know, but in higher education is quite rife. Then the next challenge we face is to do with networking spaces for our members. We found that especially during COVID-19, technological access to online meetings, webinars and conferences. Some of our members have network issues and connectivity. Even access to IT equipment is a serious one as well. And then as Titi will also say earlier, we've been able to meet some of these challenges to do with space and opportunities. Coming to funding for new students and having adequate access to scholarships, that is a challenge that we face. And then for existing and current students, being able to get funding for field work, for research and tuition, for conference attendance, we find that we have difficulty in those areas too. Two more things I'll talk about in this section: publications, particularly access to international journals that have a high impact factor, and the know-how for academic writing, because academic writing is very different from normal writing, for blogs or, informal writing. And then managing the publishing process, and then developing a niche. So, knowing what your own work, your PhD work is all about, and then knowing how to develop that area and publicize it or publish it. That is one challenge that we face. The last one is to do with toxic cultures. Our members face quite a bit of academic bullying, abuse, harassment within research relationships, sometimes lack of supervisory support, And then you find in some departments, the departmental culture, so a lack of laboratory research resources, the ratio of supervisors to students. You may find one supervisor has a remit of maybe 20 or more students sometimes. The issue of training supervisors on how to supervise effectively. And then for some students, there's the dampening of innovation. So we have these ideas and these innovative things that we want to introduce into our research, but because of the culture around, some cultures around higher education, that is dampened, if you like, and we're not enthusiastic enough to follow through on these ideas. So those are the challenges that we face in that year.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing them. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we will delve deeper into what DAPIA is about. Do stay tuned. Back. If you just tune in, you are watching AAU Talks on AAU TV, and we have been discussing facilitating doctoral education and knowledge production in Africa. And we are having the conversation with our guests via Zoom. We are having conversations with Titilope Ajayi and Dr. Ziba Nwako. Before we went on a break, Dr. Ziba was talking about some of the challenges in higher education, and she mentioned sexual harassment and inadequate supervision and something like an institutional culture. I would want Titi, I would want you to tell us how DAPIA is how DAPIA fits into that matrix of challenges, please.
Thank you. So, as I mentioned initially, we are a very gender conscious community and group of scholars. So there are a number of things that we do to address some of the gender challenges that Ziba mentioned, and some of them address the question of harassment directly, some are broader. So with regards to the issue of harassment specifically, this is something that we're very conscious of. We have a number of people in our community, myself included, who have had experiences with harassment within the university space. And so this is something that we take very seriously. So at the moment, we are doing some background research to determine how we would like to engage more specifically as a community, but as individuals and representatives of the community, we have taken part in initiatives by other actors to bring attention to this issue and to discuss possible solutions to address it more comprehensively. We have, if you go to our website, we have a number of resources there. So we have one platform which we call PhD Life Stories. And what this is a collection of interviews that we do with people who have just completed or recently completed their PhD studies. And the purpose of this is to find out people's experiences, the challenges that they've had, how they were able to overcome them. And like everything that we do, we have a specific focus on women. So we have a number of those interviews with women. We have another one that is being published this week, which was with a couple that did their PhDs at the same time. And so you get the perspective from the women, in addition to other genders, about what the experiences were, how they were able to overcome some of the challenges that they faced. We also, in the kinds of opportunities that we share, I mentioned earlier that we are a hub. So one of the things that we do, in addition to providing direct support ourselves, is to draw on opportunities and knowledge that is being shared by others. There are a number of other actors in the system, but because there's no central point, sometimes it can be hard to find information. And in all of that, in the opportunities that we share, gender is a central focus, and we try as much as possible to filter out from those opportunities what is relevant for Africa, African scholars, scholars working on Africa, but also especially what is relevant for women. And then I guess the third thing is that we, like I said, we are very gender conscious, and we consider ourselves to be leading from the front in the visibility that we give women, in the inclusion and participation of women in our community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Ziba, and I'll give this question out to the both of you. Kindly give us some recommendations from interactions and on the way forward for more broad results.
Okay, thanks for that. So I'll start with one reply, and then Tim will carry on. And I'll start with policy, specifically addressing policymakers in higher education and wider, so national policymakers. Again, starting with gender. So I will talk about gender mainstreaming. There's been a lot of research lately on how to support female students in higher education. And one of the recommendations that comes out of that is gender mainstreaming within the curriculum. Probably not just in higher education, but starting from an early age. So if we can imbibe issues of gender, issues of male and female power dynamics in the curriculum from an early age, from basic education, then by the time it gets to university level, I think we'll not be facing the kind of issues that we face now. And then also to do with establishing gender policies. So higher education institutions need to be able to not only establish, but to implement. So policy and practice, implement gender policies to be able to support female students. Setting up working, and I say this in quotes, working gender units, because as part of a recent project I did, we had a look, we reviewed some universities, and I'd say this particularly in Nigeria, and found that quite a few of them have gender units or gender, what are they called, departments or whatever it is, that support women, that deal with advocacy, deal with awareness of gender issues. But the problem is that it seems to be more theoretical. So they exist, but whether they actually work is another matter. So I think that the onus is on university authorities and policymakers to be able to make sure that these units are working. And also to be able to, not only working, but to be able to work from emerging research. Because like I said earlier, there's a lot of research coming out, but whether we're using that research for impact and for practice is another matter. And then finally, to be able to raise awareness. So, you know, maybe arrange seminars, workshops, find out about how to support women in areas where, not just with resources, but in areas where they actually need physical and practical support. So bring in maybe NGOs or bodies that deal with harassment and deal with managing women's expectations, emotions, well-being, and issues like that. So those are areas where I think that there's a big, huge gap, and our recommendations are for these policymakers to look into these areas and make sure they are strengthened. Titi.
Okay. All right, so in addition to what Ziba has said, and you're probably getting the sense by now that there's quite a lot of challenges, and I don't think we have enough space within this this conversation, as important as it is to raise all of the challenges. So what we are focusing on is more of the areas in which we are active. So in addition to these sort of high-level policy suggestions that she has made, there are a number of other things, and these are not necessarily policy, but there are things that would be good to advance the conversations that we're having. So one of them, for example, is to have more funding by our African governments for our African universities. I have benefited from a number of scholarships, but they've all been external from the US and other countries. It would be good for us to put more money into our education system, especially at the tertiary level, to enable us to focus on things that really are priorities for us that then feed back into developing countries and our people as well. Yeah, I think it's also important that the cultures within departments, within universities are more collegial, without taking away from the good values in our African cultures, but just to have students treated more as scholars rather than just students. I can't count the number of times that some people have said to me, "You are just a student." I might not be a professor yet, but I am a person situated in different sort of groups and positionalities in life. So I bring my own set of knowledge and experiences. So the university should be a space where we come together to exchange. There shouldn't be so much of the hierarchies that we have in some universities at the moment that prevent people from coming together and obstruct your own learning as a student and even as a senior scholar. Ziba talked about this challenge of funding. And so we've held a number of what you would call professional development sessions where we bring in people who are experts to talk about various different topics. So we've had, I think, 2 sessions so far. One where we had somebody talk about the different types of scholarships that there are, the different types of research funding, and how as a student, you don't just have to focus on scholarships. You can apply for research funding, you can apply for consultancies where you can get money that you can use to finance your studies as well. And we target this at different stages, whether you are in your first year or you are in the middle or you've just finished and you're looking for a postdoctoral research funding or opportunity. We also recently, last month, had a session with 2 women who run organizations that uh, manage scholarship capacity building. And so this was a recorded session where the 2 of them came together to talk about now, if you want to, where the scholarships are, how do you make the best application? How do you enhance your chances of success? So that's another intervention that we made. And again, we have bi-monthly, what we call peer support forums. And this is where it's a safe space where any early career doctoral scholar can come and raise any issues that they're facing, whether it has to do with funding or their supervisor, or they're having mental health challenges, or they're having problems with their thesis, anything. And we will all together and reason it out. And usually people leave feeling like they have a response to the challenge that they came with. We also, with regards to networking and some of the things that I talk about, they are networking opportunities. When you come to talk about your issues, it's also an opportunity. We've had a number of people in those sessions who will say, "Oh, you are in the same discipline as me," or "I'm interested in your work," and then they go on to have bilateral talks among themselves and to work on issues together. We've also had people who, from those sessions, maybe one person is organizing a conference and another person will say, "Well, I'm interested," and then they put together a panel in a conference. We've had this happen as well. With regards to publications, we've also had a number of sessions. We had the editor of a leading journal come in. It's called the Journal of African Cultural Studies, and she did also a recorded session for us where she was talking about how do you manage the process when you want to pitch an article to a journal? How do you manage your relationship with the editor? What are the things that you should know? What should you do and not do when you're submitting an article to a journal? So we have that as well. And we have an upcoming session on how do you actually put together a journal article or any kind of academic work for publication. That's coming up this Thursday. What else? And then from next year, we are looking to do some training courses on some of these issues and other issues that we will be sourcing from our community, because we are very much focused on responding to actual needs. So it's not just our perceptions of what's needed. We regularly ask our community, what are the issues that you are dealing with? How do you think we can respond to them? And then we develop the solutions. I think the last thing I would say is this question of toxic cultures. So there are a number of things that we do. One is that we do a lot of interpersonal engagement and counseling. We've had a number of people who come to us anonymously and say, we're having this issue, we don't know what to do about it, we don't want to make it public, or we're not ready to do the full official procedure because we don't want to become stigmatized within our unit. And so we will deliberate together, we will advise, we will sometimes link them with other people, and we're able to help address challenges in that way. We also regularly would air these issues, whether it's in our support forums or in these public sessions that we have. And it's our hope that when we bring up these issues, we draw attention to them, and then we are able to influence actions by people who are in positions of authority. And I think the last thing and the most important thing is that we have those values ourselves, that we need to be the change that we want to see. It's not going to be an overnight process, but like Ziba was saying, when you want to see change, some of these long-term things, you start early. So we start with ourselves, and we very much encourage members of our community to hold these values as well, and to look at the things that they are seeing in senior scholars that they don't like and that are not healthy, that are not productive, and make sure that we do the opposite. And so we are the change that we would like to see in this space in the future. Thank you. And I guess I would like to end by making a pitch for two things, really. Like I said, there is a lot of work. There are lots of people doing very different things. And I think that the way forward is for us to come together to pool our resources and our knowledge and our human power. So if there's any organization, and it was a conversation like that that led to this session today. So if there's any organization out there that would like to partner with doing a PhD in Africa, we are open. We would love to talk to you and see what we can do together that would benefit both of our organizations, but more importantly, the community of early career doctoral scholars that we work with. And the second also is a pitch for funding. As I mentioned earlier, we are currently an organization that is being coordinated by volunteers right across the structure. And we've done a lot that has been self-funded, but we could do so much more if we had some robust funding behind us. So if there is any organization or actor that would like to support us in this regard, then do please get in touch. We would love to talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Titi, and thank you to Dr. Ziba for joining us on AAU Talks right here on AAU TV, and thank you too for tuning in. The show is proudly brought to you by the Association of African Universities. You can follow the conversation. If you have any questions, any suggestions, you can send them via social media handles at AAU_TV on Twitter, Association of African Universities on Facebook and YouTube, and at AAU TV Official on Instagram. My name is Adjoa Omie, and I have been your sitting host. Do have a great day.